Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 6, Chapter 12, Vritrasura's Glorious Death, verse number 20. Bhavanatarsheen mayam vai Vaishnavim janamohinim Yad vihaya suram bhavam Mahapurushatam gataha. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. You have surmounted the illusory energy of Lord Vishnu, and because of this liberation, you have given up the demoniac mentality and have attained the position of an exalted devotee. Purport. Lord Vishnu is the Mahapurusha. Therefore, one who becomes a Vaishnava attains the position of a Mahapaurusha. This position was attained by Maharaj Parikshit. It is said in the Padma Purana that the distinction between a demigod and a demon is that a demigod is a devotee of Lord Vishnu, whereas that a demon is just the opposite. Vishnu Bhakta Smrito Daiva Asurastad Viparyayaha. Vritrasura was considered a demon, but actually he was more than qualified as a devotee or Mahapaurusha. If one somehow becomes a devotee of the Supreme Lord, whatever his position, he can be brought to the position of a perfect person. This is possible if an unalloyed devotee tries to serve the Lord by delivering him in this way. Therefore, Shukdev Goswami says in Srimad Bhagavatam, Kirata Hunandra Pulinda Pulkasha Abhira Shumbha Yavana Khasadayah Yanye Chapapa Yadapashrayashrayaha Shuddhyanti Tasmai Prabhavishnave Namaha. Kiratas, Hunas, Andhras, Pulindas, Pulkashas, Abhiras, Shumbhas, Yavanas, and members of the Khasa races and even others addicted to sinful acts can be purified by taking shelter of the devotees of the Lord, for He is the supreme power. I beg to offer my respectful obeisances unto Him. Anyone can be purified if he takes shelter of a pure devotee and molds his character according to the pure devotee's direction. Then, even if one is a Kirata, Andhra, Pulinda, or whatever, he can be purified and elevated to the position of a Mahapaurusha. So continuing with this chapter of the fight between Vritrasura and Indra, the demon and the Devata, this chapter, Vritrasura's glorious death. He is soon about to leave his body and go back to the spiritual world. And so, just moments before that, this conversation is happening between Indra and Vritrasura. Indra is concerned about his victory, whether he will win the battle or not. And at one point, his thunderbolt fell from his hand and he felt that, oh, he is defeated, he is morose. This is Indra's situation. And on the other hand, Vritrasura although he has lost his weapon, although his one arm is cut off, you can imagine someone fighting a battle, if his arm is cut off, what he will be. But still he is not dejected at all. He is situated in perfect transcendence, although he knows that he is going to be killed. So in such a situation, Vritrasura is giving spiritual knowledge to Indra. And he's not fearful of losing in the battle, because he knows that he's going back to the spiritual world, because he will be killed by a weapon which Indra will release, and that weapon has been made as per the directions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, so it's not an ordinary weapon. Let that weapon kill me and I'll get liberated. But Indra is doubtful of the weapon which Lord Vishnu has given him. So Vritrasura is actually a devotee, and he has taken on this body of a demon. We have been hearing all this. And because Indra is seeing Vritrasura in this position, in a position where he is going to die, giving spiritual knowledge, speaking words of wisdom, he is saying these words which we are reading today. He is telling Vritrasura, you have surmounted the illusory energy of Lord Vishnu. And because of this liberation, to surmount the illusory energy of Lord Vishnu is not so easy. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Daivi esha gunamai mama maya duratyaya. It is very difficult. Duratyaya means very difficult. But mamevaya prapadyante maya metam tarantite. But if you surrender to me, you can easily cross over. Thing which is very difficult to cross over can easily be crossed over simply by surrendering to Lord Vishnu or Krishna. And Vritrasura has exactly done that. And so, Maya Metam Tarantite. Here also in this verse, Bhavan, in the Sanskrit if you read, Bhavan Tarshin, Taranti, a Tarshin, the same kind of word is used. He has surmounted the illusory energy. And because of this liberation, you have given up the demoniac mentality and obtained the position of an exalted devotee. So Vritrasura, here Prabhupada writes in the purport that Vritrasura is considered a demon, but actually he was more than qualified as a devotee. So that is so he has become Mahapaurusha. So Mahapurusha is the Supreme Lord Krishna, and one who surrenders to him, who follows his direction, his instruction, he becomes Mahapaurusha. Mahapurusha is Krishna, his devotee is Mahapaurusha. And this was the position attained by all great devotees. Maharaj Parikshit, example, Prabhupada is writing. He had also become a great devotee because he had just surrendered to the will of the providence. He was cursed, and he knew that there is something special that the Lord has planned, and he did not counteract the curse. He just surrendered to the will of providence, to the will of the Lord, and so he also became a great devotee, Mahapaurusha. This was the position attained, this has been the position attained by all great devotees. So, Prabhupada writes in the purport that in the Padma Purana it is stated that the distinction between a demigod and a demon is that a demigod is a devotee of Lord Vishnu, whereas a demon is just the opposite. Vishnu Bhakta Smrito Daiva Asurastad Viparyayaha. Vritrasura was considered a demon, but actually he was more than qualified as a devotee. Now, there is something very important that Prabhupada writes in the purport. If one somehow becomes a devotee of the Supreme Lord, whatever his position, he can be brought to the position of a perfect person. So here, what is written in the purport, is that no matter what our position is, what our past is, how sinful I am, I may be, I was, if we become devotees of the Supreme Lord, we can be brought to the position of a perfect person. So the first important thing that should strike us when we read this line is, I can become a perfect person. Right now, I am a person. Right now, I am a sinful person. I am a conditioned person. I am an imperfect person. But from this position that I am in, I can become a perfect person. Actually, this is the goal of this human form of life. The human form of life is meant for perfecting ourselves. It is not a small thing to become a perfect person. It's a very big thing. And this is such an important thing that we should be so anxious to become perfect. Oh, I can become perfect in this life. I want to become perfect. How can I become perfect? In one purport, Prabhupada writes, when do you need a spiritual master? Or when will a spiritual master come in your life? And you can actually derive benefit from the spiritual master. Sometimes we just accept spiritual masters. We just accept a guru. But Prabhupada writes, unless one is perfectly anxious to inquire the way of perfection, he doesn't need a guru. See? So two things. First is, there we have to become perfect person, and we have to become perfectly anxious to become perfect. Then a guru will come in your life, and then there will be a perfect transfer of that perfection, because guru is perfect. So now the next line, this is what Prabhupada is writing. This is possible. That means for you to become perfect, how is it possible? First is you should be perfectly anxious. And then, okay, I'm perfectly anxious. Now how do we become perfect? This is possible to become a perfect person if an unalloyed devotee tries to serve the Lord by delivering him in this way. Meaning, what does the statement mean? That an unalloyed devotee has to come in your life, which will come when you become perfectly anxious. And then he will deliver you. He will make you perfect by his mercy only. By the mercy of an unalloyed devotee, not any other devotee, not any other guru. Only an unalloyed devotee can you become perfectly delivered by delivering him in this way. Then a guru makes an instant transformation in you. It doesn't take time. It doesn't take time. And the best example for this is the story of Mrigari, whose guru was Narad Muni. When Mrigari we know the story of hunter Mrigari, that he was a hunter, and he was not just a hunter, he was so sinful that he would not just kill animal, he would half kill animal. And then he would take pleasure in seeing their suffering. He would shoot an arrow at the leg of an animal, and the animal leg is broken and the animal is struggling, suffering, and he would take pleasure. And he was taught like this by his father to half kill animal and then kill them, and then finally they will anyway die. Half kill and take pleasure in seeing their suffering. So Narad Muni was passing by and he saw this scene, and then he gave him an advice. He told him, he was trying to teach him a lesson, that Mrigari, why are you half killing animal? I would suggest you kill them fully. That will be better for you. So he says, what are you telling? That will be something better for me? He said, yeah, because by half killing them, they're suffering you will suffer more, because this is more sinful, because they are suffering so much, so their pain and their suffering the karma you will have to take, and you will have to then suffer even more. And like this, Narad was talking to him and giving him some spiritual knowledge. And because Narada was a pure devotee, Mrigari, was getting transformed, and then Mrigari, became anxious to learn more, to know more. And then Mrigari asks him that, can you please tell me more, what is all this? And then because Mrigari is inquiring, then Narad Muni speaks to him. And then, now here, now there are three things. First, we have to be perfectly anxious. Then a pure devotee comes in your life, right, to deliver you. And then when a pure devotee comes in your life to deliver you, then what is the next step? So the next step here, Prabhupada is writing, anyone can be purified if he takes shelter of a pure devotee and molds his character according to the pure devotee's direction. So, when a pure devotee comes in your life and you accept him as a guru, it doesn't stop there. What is the meaning of perfectly anxious to inquire about the way of perfection? Means when the guru comes in your life, first of all, pure devotee, then we must follow his directions. We have to mold our character according to the pure devotee's direction. So, this is very important. So, when Narada came in Mrigari's life, Narada said, okay, what do you want me to do? How do I come out of this, of all the sins that you are saying? So, Mrigari tells him, first of all, you must break your bow and arrow. Throw them. So, Mrigari is saying, if I break my bow and arrow, then who will take care of me? My living, my food is this. Because I kill animal, I sell the skin, I do all these things and I earn money, and then that's how I maintain myself. So Narada says, no, if you are accepting me as my spiritual master, you have to follow what I say. And Mrigari immediately threw his bow and arrow. And this is called the faith in following the directions of a spiritual master. No questions asked. Because my spiritual master has told me this, whatever he tells me, I will follow. To the best of my ability, I will try my best. This is called. And when we try to do this, follow the instructions of the spiritual master to the best of our ability, we are molding our character. Because character can be molded, character can be changed for the good only if a pure devotee comes in our life and we are seriously following his instruction. This is a real refine, not external character, real internal purification. And the best, Prabhupada recollects how, he was so here, it is so important that we hold on to the instructions of a spiritual master with firmness, with determination. In the next shloka it is said, Dridha Matihi. This is how Vritrasura was determined, with Dridha Matihi. In Bhagavad Gita also Krishna says, Aniketaha sthira matirir bhaktiman me priyo naraha. Aniket, sthira matir. A devotee means his mind is Dridhamati or Sthiramati, something very similar. Means his mind is fixed on the instructions of the spiritual master. And then he himself can become a pure devotee. So Prabhupada recalls what were his, we all have some interest. So let's now find out. So a pure devotee comes in your life, and you follow his directions with dridhamati, with conviction, and that's how our life, we mold our character and we become perfect person. So if you want to become a perfect person, this is the process. So Prabhupada gives an example from his own life, how he was so determined to follow the instructions of the Guru. And he received only one instruction, and that one instruction, Prabhupada held on to it very firmly. So actually, so what is that instruction? Prabhupada recalls in 1922, the first time that he met Bhaktisiddhanta in Calcutta, he told him, you must take up this preaching work, preach to the English-speaking community, and that is the instruction that he gave him. And Prabhupada was little surprised. First time he's meeting Bhaktisiddhanta, they don't know each other, and directly here is the first instruction. So you see, this is the power of a guru. A guru knows, his disciple, and he knows what is good for the disciple. He said that. And then after many years, in 1936, Prabhupada actually got formally initiated only in 1933, which is 11 years later. That day we heard from Shambhu Prabhu how the initiation, the formal initiation is only a formality. But the real initiation is from the day you start your chanting your 16 rounds, start reading Srila Prabhupada books, and start following Srila Prabhupada's instructions. So that is what is being said here according to pure devotees' direction. So Prabhupada says this also, that actually I was initiated in 1922. And then later, much later, 1936, which was the year when Bhaktisiddhanta passed away on December 31st, early December, Prabhupada writes a letter to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta that he writes a letter stating that he is unable to render direct service. Is there anything that he could do? Of course, Prabhupada was supporting the Gaudiya mission, Gaudiya Math, by contributing money. But Prabhupada was feeling he is not giving any direct service like all his other god brothers were giving, sannyasis and brahmacharis were giving. So Prabhupada writes to his guru, is there any other way I can serve you? I feel sorry that I am not able to give you direct service. And the reply came just 2 weeks before Srila Bhaktisiddhanta passed away. On the 13th of December, he had written a letter which Srila Prabhupada receives. And there, the same instruction Bhaktisiddhanta had given, that you will do good to yourself and to the whole world by preaching this message of Krishna consciousness throughout the English-speaking community in the Western world. And Prabhupada, it struck him, because just one instruction, it had not changed. The instruction that was in 1922 and the instruction that came, the first and the last contact of Bhaktisiddhanta, it was the same instruction. So Prabhupada says, I took this up a little seriously because this was the direction of my Guru Maharaj. This was the instruction that Bhaktisiddhanta gave me. And so I had to follow this instruction. And he says, Prabhupada says, actually I have no qualification. If there is any if you feel that if there is any qualification in me, the only qualification was I firmly stuck on to the words of my spiritual master, Dhrida Matihi. That yes, I took this up a little seriously, and with faith I tried to execute it. So even you see Mrigari, he had full firm faith. So this faith that I can become a perfect person simply by following the instruction of my spiritual master is what is needed. First of all, to become a perfect person is not an ordinary thing. It's not a simple thing. We should meditate on this. I am so imperfect now. That should be our prayer to Krishna. Every day when we go to the altar, what should be our prayer? I am so fallen. I am so frail. I am so weak. I am so imperfect. I am so sinful. From this state, I can become a perfect person. Kirata, Hunandra, Pulinda, Pulkasha. This verse Prabhupada is quoting here. All these, and others also who are addicted to sinful acts can be purified by taking shelter of the devotees of the Lord. So that devotee has to be a pure devotee. It cannot be anyone else. An imperfect soul cannot make us perfect. If we have to become perfect, the person whom we have taken shelter has to be a perfect person himself. And that is only A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. No one else. So that is actually our fight also in this whole battle. Actually, we are only fighting for Srila Prabhupada and this is what Prabhupada had also said. Prabhupada recalls so many times that my Guru Maharaj Bhaktisiddhanta, in the last days of passing away, he said so many things, but he never appointed any guru. So, if Bhaktisiddhanta said so many things, but never said about appointing a guru, how can he make, so that means that was the instruction. He said you make a GBC and then there will be a self-effulgent acharya and then he will preach. And then Prabhupada writes, he quotes this and then says, so we also have to be very careful in our camp that we may not make the same mistake again. So clear instructions. He's saying that Bhaktisiddhanta did not appoint anybody, and Prabhupada is saying we may not make the same mistake in our camp. We have to be very careful. And see, the July and exactly the same mistake unfortunately was made in ISKCON. And the July 9th letter, if you see, Prabhupada is writing a directive to all temple president about, they say that this Ritvik system was only for the present until Srila Prabhupada was present. Actually, it was not for the present, it was for therefore, from the henceforward, it's for future. But even if you take the argument that the July 9th letter was for the present, now think of this. If Prabhupada has to write a written directive to all temple president for a system which was for the present, and they also say it was already continuing, that even we don't debate. The Ritvik system was already happening because Prabhupada was not in a position to initiate. So if Prabhupada has to write a letter for something that was already happening, just imagine, then for something that will change in the future, will he not write a letter? Will he not mention it elaborately, explicitly? Something that's already happening, he shouldn't have mentioned, he should not have written because it's already happening. But even that he is writing. So how much more clear he will be if he has to appoint a guru for the future? And that letter never came. In fact, May 28th, Prabhupada's, the question is asked by Satsurupa, what should be the process of initiation? First and second, especially when you are no longer with us. And Prabhupada doesn't reply. Tamal Krishna replies, Prabhupada says, yes, I will appoint some of you after all this is settled up. And Tamal Krishna replies, is that called a Ritvik? Prabhupada says, Ritvik, yes. So it's so amply clear. So if we want to become a perfect, that's why Prabhupada wanted all of us to become perfect persons, and we can become perfect only if we accept a perfect devotee, a pure devotee as our guru, and that is only Srila Prabhupada. So Prabhupada wanted to ensure that he remains the Acharya, the initiating spiritual master, the Diksha Guru, for the society for the next 10,000 years. And that is why Prabhupada wrote those, gave these instructions. So this is the way for perfect. So Prabhupada said, so he accepted Bhaktisiddhanta, and Bhaktisiddhanta later instructs him. Prabhupada says, yes, I received order from Bhaktisiddhanta. So if you're accepting Prabhupada, you have to accept all his words. So Prabhupada, so he said, I perfectly followed the instruction of my spiritual master. So now, what is the direction? This was Prabhupada's, this was the direction that Bhaktisiddhanta gave to Prabhupada. What is, and the same instruction, 1922 and 1936. Imagine 13 years gap, the instruction has not changed. First and last. So what is, actually sometimes, we try to look for new and new instructions. Something new that Prabhupada should say. Some new story, something, something we tried. This is, sometimes the devotees get into this thing. No, this all I have heard. We are not the body, we are spirit soul, we should chant around. I mean, anything new? No, there's nothing new. The same old instruction. If we have a good, and if we want to become, so Prabhupada writes to become perfect. Now the point is, a perfect person, it is not at all complicated. It is very, very easy. We have to stick on. This is called Sthiramatir or Dhridamatir. Stick on to that. Don't look for different instructions. So what is Srila Prabhupada's instruction for us? Like his instruction, Bhaktisiddhanta instructions for him was to preach. Of course, that is also our instruction to preach, but there is something very special that Prabhupada writes. He is writing this in 1967. Some devotee must have written to him. We don't know what is the letter of the devotee. The letter of the devotee appears to be looking for some instruction from Srila Prabhupada. So what is the instruction Prabhupada gives? I have nothing new to instruct you. The same old instruction, namely constant chanting and attentively hearing. The transcendental vibration, Hare Krishna, is the only process for self-realization in this age. In San Francisco, while you were driving your car, I was sitting by you, hearing your transcendental vibration, and this very sincere attempt has enriched your consciousness, and my only instruction is that you may constantly do this habit without fail. So now you see here, Prabhupada is saying, I don't have anything new to instruct you, same old instruction, and then he ends this letter with my only instruction. So same old instruction and my only instruction is constant chanting and attentive hearing and a very sincere attempt. So now, unless we perfect this instruction, we should not look for any other instruction. And none of us have perfected this instruction. So because we have not perfected, we should go on sincerely attempting to attentively hearing our chanting. So Prabhupada further, he writes, he's writing about the new births. Prabhupada says that Bhaktisiddhanta had sent many of his preachers to the West for impregnating them with KC, but they were unsuccessful. And he writes, one of my god brothers came, but it didn't happen. And then he says about his disciples, but because they are so sincere, yes, the sincerity in spiritual life, sincerity is the first qualification. You see, the same thing. You are perfectly anxious means you're sincere. Sincerity is the first qualification. One should be very sincere. Duplicity may be a very good qualification in the material world, but duplicity in spiritual life is no qualification. In the material world, you have to be duplicitous. Otherwise, you cannot survive. But in spiritual life, this is no qualification. And this purport also, if you see what he's saying, anyone who takes shelter of a pure devotee and molds his character, this is molding our character, giving up all duplicity and making a sincere attempt according to pure devotee's direction. Then even if one is Kirata, Andhra, Pulinda, no matter how sinful, he can be purified and be elevated to the position of Mahapaurusha, a great devotee. So simply, sincerely following my instructions. So Prabhupada writes, all the truth about the soul will gradually develop. All the truth about the soul will gradually develop as you go on chanting Hare Krishna. So see, as you go on chanting Hare Krishna, things will start getting revealed to you in your heart. This is what we should be anxious about. Krishna will reveal himself to Sevan Mukhehi Jivvado Swayameva Spurati Adaha. These are the things that should be inspiring us. Krishna will reveal everything to us. It's not an ordinary thing. God revealing everything to you. All these will happen. Prabhupada writes this. In 1967, he's writing, early days, 66, 67, preaching has just begun. Things will gradually be revealed. And he goes on saying this. Now, what is the will of Prabhupada? Prabhupada wrote a will, right? About different things that we had to do, about something about properties. Generally, when we talk about a will, we talk about my will means, mostly it will be about my properties, what will happen to my properties after I leave and go. Now here you see what is the will of Prabhupada. So you're all helping me in the execution of my mission, so please do not try to do anything beyond the jurisdiction of my instruction. Do not try to do anything beyond the jurisdiction of my instruction. Now, what is his instruction? And then he says, my will. So his instruction is in the will. My will, I have already disclosed to you all. What is that? That each and every one of you should chant the Maha Mantra regularly in 16 rounds, following the 4 regulative principles, chant Hare Krishna mantra, distribute books, etc. And then he says, I can assure you that if you follow my instructions as above mentioned, there is no doubt about it that through me, my spiritual master Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur will be pleased, and through his mercy, Lord Nityananda will be pleased. In this way, Lord Chaitanya and ultimately Radha Krishna will be pleased, and thus your life will become successful. Or in other words, you will become perfect. So you see, in this whole thing, it's the importance of accepting a guru in the parampara is so clearly coming out. Radha Krishna has to be pleased, they will be pleased, or whichever way you go. Gauranga, their gurus, their disciples, Bhaktisiddhanta, and then Prabhupada. So the way for perfection is to accept a pure devotee. He is pleased, his guru is pleased, his guru is pleased, Nityananda is pleased, Chaitanya is pleased, Radha Krishna is pleased. Then this is the way for becoming perfect. So we have to accept only Srila Prabhupada. He is our guru. It is only through him, because he is a perfect person, that we can become perfect. And we see here how Vritrasura has also become perfect. And actually in the next verse, it says that why Indra is saying it's a wonder how you're speaking words of liberation, how you're liberated and you're speaking words of wisdom, because Indra doesn't know that Vritrasura also has a guru. His guru was Narada, a pure devotee. That he doesn't know. So all these things will become revealed, will come out in the next chapter. So here we'll end with this, a very nice quote. We say that, we all feel, we all perceive Srila Prabhupada, right? Through his instructions. Prabhupada says, I'll always be living with my disciple, and you will feel my presence. Now here, Prabhupada is saying something very, very important, very interesting. We're all talking about accepting a guru and following his instructions. Prabhupada writes in a letter in 1967 again, very early days Prabhupada is writing. Actually, we should all read from the Veda base, all his lectures and all these things, 1966, 67 and 68. Those early years, Prabhupada very, intimately and very nicely spoke about, some very, very basic fundamental concepts of Krishna consciousness, and, with very nice words he used. He writes in his letter, if you try to follow my instructions, you will feel what? You will feel that my body is in your presence always. So he's not only saying that you will feel my presence always, he's saying if you follow my instructions, you will feel that my body is in your presence always. Means we can actually feel Prabhupada is present in person in front of us. This is just a little different than feeling that Prabhupada is present. Yes, he's present, but you will feel he's personally present in his body. So all this will come, we can feel all these things, all this will happen if we are sincere. Like in that letter, he says, the only qualification is sincerely following the instructions. Don't look for many instructions. He says the same instruction, the same old instruction, I have nothing new to say. Chanting, and he very clearly writes out, chanting 16 rounds and hearing attentively. And as long as we don't perfect in this, we have to go on trying our best to do this. And then everything will be revealed, and then our lives will be perfect. So here this Vritrasura has become a perfect person, and we can also become perfect by accepting a pure devotee, Srila Prabhupada, just like Vritrasura had his spiritual master, Narada. In his earlier life was Chitraketu, and he remembered all those things, and that's how he was speaking the words of wisdom. So the same opportunity is available for us also. So we'll close here. Granthra Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Vishwa Guru Srila Prabhupada ki, Jai Gaur Premanand.